The display of the parameters associated with engine performance and airframe systems control by means of cathode ray tube type display units has, like those of flight instrument systems, become a standard feature of many types of aircraft. The display units form part of two principal systems, called the Engine Indicating and Crew Alerting System, EICAS, and Electronic Centralized Aircraft Monitoring, ECAM system. These systems were first introduced in Boeing 757 and 767 aircraft and the Airbus A310 respectively. As far as EICAS is concerned, engine operating data is displayed on its cathode ray tube units, thereby eliminating the need for traditional engine instruments. Engine operating data, as well as that relevant to other systems, is not necessarily always on display. But in the event of malfunctions occurring at any time, the flight crew's attention is drawn to them by an automatic display of messages in appropriate colors. However, in the Airbus A310, in which system operation was displayed in checklist and schematic form, the early ECAM concept was based on the view that engine data needed to be displayed during the whole of a flight, and accordingly traditional engine instruments were retained. It's of interest to note, however, that in subsequent types produced by this manufacturer, for example the A320, the ECAM system is developed to include the display of engine data in one of its display units. The basic EICAS system comprises two display units, a control panel which is called the Display Select panel, and two computers which are supplied with analog and digital signals from engine and system sensors. The computers are designated left and right, and only one is in control at a time. The other is on standby, and in the event of failure, it may be switched in either automatically or manually. Operating in conjunction with the EICAS system are discrete caution and warning lights, which are situated on the front coaming, a standby engine indicator panel, and a remotely located panel for selecting maintenance data displays. The system provides the flight crew with constantly displayed information on primary engine parameters and with secondary engine parameters and advisory, caution, warning alert messages displayed as required. The display units provide a wide variety of information relevant to engine operation and operation of other automated systems, and they utilize color cathode ray tubes. The units are mounted one above the other. The upper unit displays the primary engine parameters, N1 speed, exhaust gas temperature, and warning and caution messages. In some cases, this unit can also display the engine pressure ratio, depending on the type of engines installed and on the methods used to process data by the thrust management control system. The lower unit displays secondary engine parameters, that is N2 speed, fuel flow, oil quantity, pressure and temperature, and engine vibration. In addition, the status of non-engine systems, for example, flight control surface positions, hydraulic systems, the auxiliary power unit, etc., can also be displayed, together with aircraft configuration and maintenance data. The row of V's shown on the upper display unit only appears when secondary information is being displayed on the lower unit. 7 colors are produced by the cathode ray tubes, and they are used as follows. White, all scales, normal operating range of pointers, digital readouts. Red, warning messages, maximum operating limit marks on scales, and digital readouts. Green, thrust mode readout and selected EPA and N1 speed marks or target cursors. Blue, system testing only. yellow. Caution and advisory messages, caution limit marks on scales, digital readouts. Magenta. During in-flight engine starting and for cross-bleed messages. Cyan. Names of all parameters being measured, for example, N1, oil pressure, TAT, etc., and status marks or cues. ICAS is designed to categorize displays and alerts according to function and usage, and for this purpose there are three modes of displaying information: 1. Operational, 2. Status, and 3. Maintenance. Operational and status modes are selected by the flight crew on the Display Select panel, while the maintenance mode is selected on the maintenance panel, which is for the use of ground engineering staff only. The operational mode displays the engine operating information and any alerts which are required to be actioned by the crew. Normally, only the upper display unit presents information. The lower one remains blank, but it can be selected to display secondary information as and when required by pressing the Engine button on the Display Select panel. Use your mouse to press the Engine button on the Display Select panel to see secondary information being shown on the bottom screen. When selected by pressing the Status button on the Display Select panel, the Status mode allows data to be displayed on the bottom screen, which is used to determine the dispatch readiness of an aircraft. This data is closely associated with details contained in the aircraft's minimum equipment list. The display on the bottom screen shows positions of the flight control surfaces in the form of pointers registered against vertical scales, selected subsystem parameters, and equipment status messages. Selection is normally done on the ground, either as part of the pre-flight checks of dispatch items or prior to shutdown of electrical power to aid the flight crew in making entries in the aircraft's technical log. Use your mouse to press the Engine and Status buttons on the Display Select panel to change the information shown on the bottom display between engine secondary information and the status display. The Maintenance mode provides maintenance engineers with information in 5 different display formats to aid them in troubleshooting and verification testing of the major subsystems. This display shows an example of the ECS MSG maintenance page on the bottom screen. The top screen displays data in a compact format. This display shows an example of the electrical hydraulic maintenance page. The displays, which are presented on the lower display unit, are not available in flight. The Display Select panel permits control of ICAS functions and displays, and can be used both in flight and on the ground. It's located on the center pedestal on the aircraft flight deck. Moving your mouse cursor over each control will display the purpose of each of them. The system continuously monitors a large number of inputs, typically over 400 from engine and airframe system sensors, and will detect any malfunctioning of systems. If any malfunction should occur, then appropriate messages are generated and displayed on the upper display unit in a sequence corresponding to the level of urgency of action to be taken. Up to 11 messages can be displayed on the top line at the left of the display screen and at the following levels. Level A. Warning requiring immediate corrective action. Level A warnings are displayed in red. Master warning lights are also illuminated, and aural warnings, for example the fire bell, from a central warning system are given. Level B. Cautions requiring immediate crew awareness and possible action. These are displayed in amber and also by message caution lights. There is also an aural tone which is repeated twice. Level C. Advisories requiring crew awareness. Advisories are also displayed in amber. No caution lights or aural tones are associated with this level. In order to differentiate between a caution and an advisory, the latter is always indented one space to the right. When a new fault occurs, its associated message is inserted on the appropriate line of the display. The occurrence of a new fault may cause older messages to move down one line. For example, a new warning message would cause all existing warning, caution, and advisory messages to move down one line. A message is automatically removed from the display when the associated condition no longer exists. In this case, messages which appear below the deleted one each move up a line. If there are more messages than can be displayed at one time, the whole list forms what is termed a page, and the lowest message is removed, and a page number appears in white on the lower right side of the list. If there is an additional page of messages, it can be displayed by pushing the Cancel switch on the ICAS Caution and Annunciator panel. We'll show the ICAS Caution and Annunciator panel shortly. Warning messages are carried over from the previous page. The captain and first officer each have a dual-purpose warning caution light on their side of the glare shield. Part of the ICAS Caution and Annunciator panel is used to position cancel switches and a recall switch. Pushing the cancel switch removes only the caution and advisory messages from the display. The warning messages cannot be cancelled. Moving your mouse cursor over each control or indicator will display their purpose. If the lower display unit should fail when secondary information is being displayed on it, an amber alert message appears at the top left of the upper display unit, and the information is transferred to it as shown here. The format of this display is referred to as compact, and it may be removed by pressing the Engine switch on the Display Select panel. Failure of a display unit causes the function of the status switch on the Display Select panel to be inhibited, so that the status page format cannot be displayed. If the Display Select panel fails, the advisory message ICAS Control panel appears at the top left of the upper display unit, together with the primary information, and the secondary information automatically appears on the lower display unit. The cancel recall switches do not operate in this failure condition. The standby engine indicator provides primary engine information in the event that a total loss of ICAS display occurs. The information shown on the standby engine indicator relates to N1 and N2 speeds, EPA and EGT, and the displays are of the LCD type. Operating limit values are also displayed. Moving your mouse cursor over each part of the indicator will display the purpose of it. The Maintenance Control Panel is for use by maintenance engineers for the purpose of displaying maintenance data which is stored in system computer memory during flight or ground operations. Moving your mouse cursor over each control or indicator will display its purpose. The units that comprise the ECAM system, as it was originally developed for the Airbus A310, are shown in this functional diagram. As far as the processing and display of information are concerned, the ECAM system differs significantly from ICAS, in that the displayed data relates essentially to the primary systems of the aircraft, and is shown in checklist and pictorial or synoptic format. Engine operating data is displayed by conventional types of instruments. Other differences between the ICAS and the ECAM systems relate to display locations and methods of selection of system operating modes. The display units are mounted side by side in the early version of the A310. The left-hand unit is dedicated to information on the status of systems, warnings, and corrective action in a sequenced checklist format, while the right-hand unit is dedicated to associated information in pictorial or synoptic format. In this example, both the names and the symbols of unlocked doors are shown in amber. The symbols of locked doors are shown in green, while their names are in white font. There are 4 display modes, 3 of which are automatically selected. The first is referred to as flight phase related. The second is the advisory mode and status. The third mode is failure related. The fourth mode is selected manually and called the aircraft system display. In normal operation, the flight phase-related mode automatically displays graphics appropriate to the current phase of aircraft operation. Those phases could be pre-flight, takeoff, climb, cruise, descent, approach, or after landing. In this example of the pre-flight phase, the left-hand display unit displays an advisory memo mode, and the right-hand unit displays a diagram of the aircraft's fuselage, doors, and arming of the escape slides deployment system. Status messages, which are also displayed on the left-hand display unit, provide the flight crew with an operational summary of the aircraft's condition, possible downgrading of auto-land capability, and, as far as possible, indications of the aircraft status following all failures except those that do not affect the flight. This example of an advisory display shows any aircraft limitations caused by the condition of the aircraft in blue font. Any systems or system functions which have been lost or affected in yellow font, and any further information deemed to be useful in white. The failure-related mode takes precedence over the other 2 automatic modes and the manual mode. In this example of a failure-related mode display, while taxiing out for takeoff, the temperature of the brake unit on the rear right wheel of the left main landing gear bogie has become excessive. A diagram of the wheel brake system is immediately displayed on the right display unit, and simultaneously the left unit displays the corrective action to be taken by the flight crew. As the corrective action is carried out, the instructions on the left-hand display are replaced by a message in white confirming the result of the action. The diagram on the right-hand display unit is appropriately redrawn as its system parameters change. In this example, the failure-related mode warning relates to a single system, and by convention, such warnings are signified by underlying the system title displayed. In cases where a failure can affect other subsystems, the title of the subsystem is shown boxed, as is shown in this example. Warnings and the associated lights are cleared by means of clear push-button switches on the ECAM control panel. The aircraft system display mode permits the selection of diagrams related to any one of 11 of the aircraft systems for routine checking, and also the selection of status messages, provided no warnings have been triggered for display. The selections that determine which systems are displayed are made by means of illuminated push-button switches on the system control panel. The layout of the ECAM control panel is shown here. All of the switches, with the exception of those for display control, are of the push-button illuminated caption type. Moving your mouse cursor over each control or indicator will display its purpose. This concludes the engine instruments lesson.